Coming up this week on Motor Week, Ken Gibson is on the trail, the Nissan X Trail that is, in Finland. For me, it's new for old when I exchanged the latest Wrangler for the car that inspired it nearly half a century ago. Also this week, a look behind the scenes at Formula One testing with McClaren. It's always interesting to compare an old model with a new one, see what changes have been made from one year to the next. But this time we thought we'd take it to extreme. 50 years between the two cars, an original World War II Willys Jeep and today's Jeep Wrangler 4-litre L Sport. Well, what can you say about the car's styling? Despite being separated by over 50 years, the distinctive classic lines of the Willys are clearly still echoed in the new Jeep. Okay, so the new Jeep is bigger, but they both share the same big muscle grille, oval headlamps and exposed hinges that give both that all-American rugged appeal. The Willys, however, does have some extras you won't find on today's Jeep, namely a shovel and an axe, just in case things become too tough for even the Willys. You can still see a family resemblance, but it'll be interesting to find out if they've got anything else in common at all. Well, it might be quite rugged and basic by modern standards. I mean, the thing's got manual wind-up windows, but compared to something 50 years ago, it's pretty sophisticated. We've got a 4-litre engine, of course, so no shortage of power to keep up with modern-day traffic. We've got a reasonably slick, though perhaps rather clunkier than desirable, gearbox. We've got a stereo, which of course you stand a chance of hearing over a more modern engine than in the old Willys. And we've even got a heater, though nothing as crazy as air conditioning. Ironic, isn't it, really, that the vehicle that today claims its descendancy directly from the original Jeep from the war should have grown into what many see as, well, a bit of a girl's car. It is a bit soppy, it's an image thing, let's be honest. Most of us aren't going to tax it. That said, the Wrangler is reckoned to be extremely competent off-road, and I can believe that. It's got all the right bits and pieces. A rugged chassis, a huge amount of articulation in the axles, plenty of power, and of course a reasonably sophisticated and solid four-wheel drive system. If you were to venture beyond the city confines, you'd be fine in this. Not that you're going to, are you? But enough of this mincing around, talking around town. What's the point when we've got the real deal waiting for us over there? All I've got to do is get there, across open ground, with no cover. God, this takes me back to Nam. Well, you can't be too careful, can you? Blimey! Even starting this thing is a butch procedure. Switch, choke, button, pedal. Geronimo, now which way is that bridge? That noise! That World War II Jeep. Here we come to save the day. This is hilarious. It's also got about 1,000 turns from turn to turn on the wheel to get the thing to change direction. That's why you see them on the films when they're trying to steer it, because you've got to. We've got 3 gears, low, intermediate and high. Through the transfer case, we've then got a low and high ratio gearbox. Supposedly, in high ratio, you can't go any faster than 65 miles an hour. But as the speedo tops out at 60, there's no way to get that out. It's just like somebody's chucked a load of old bike frames and bedsteads into a skip and welded a car out of it. Of course, safety isn't what it is now. You do get, well, you get this, a strap. No idea. They may share a similar name, but let's be honest, they're more than 1 million miles apart. And I don't just mean the gulf of 50 years between the two cars. Their design brief couldn't be much more different. On the one hand, maximum mobility on the field of battle, and on the other, well, maximum exposure on the pose down the high street. And so I salute my old friend, the humble Jeep. You may carry on, Lieutenant.
Hello. I'm on the trail of the very newest 4x4 off-roader. But the levels to which Nissan are taking me to find it are pretty ridiculous. A, I've had to come to Finland. B, I've come over rivers, walked through more trees and woods. But hold on, I think I found it. I think I have found it. Bloody. Now this, if I'm right, is the Nissan X Trail. I'll tell you what, I hope it's been worth the effort. Let's find out. Finland is a driver's dream location, and Nissan have really hit it on the button with the course they set us. It really did have something of everything to put the car to the test. From motorway cruising to demanding country roads to gravel and a really strenuous 4x4 course. The reality is, of course, that the majority of buyers of the X Trail will spend an awful lot of time on motorways and clogged up city roads. And the good news is, it's a very impressive performer. 2-litre engine's very smooth and quiet. The gearbox is slick and refined. You have the usual high seating position of a 4x4, and it's an altogether very relaxing experience. Now this beats stopping at the services on the M25 any day. This is what I call civilized motorway driving. I'm seriously impressed by the interior of the X Trail. Nissan are really trying hard to shake off their old dull and bland interior, and this is another big step forward. I particularly like the instruments moved to the right in the center of the dashboard, which not only is very good from a safety point of view, but they're big and bold instruments as well. Yeah, this is definitely the most original interior for a 4x4 since the Freelander came along. Not quite as good a material finish to the trim, but pretty good. And it knocks the new Ford Maverick into a cocked hat. Think 4x4s and you don't automatically think Nissan, but they've actually got a pretty impressive pedigree. They're celebrating 50 years of building 4x4s this year. And with the new X Trail, they've obviously gone very much for the Tonka toy macho look. I mean, this is a chunky machine for big boys. What I particularly like about it is it's got a really good shape to it. I like the bulging wheel arches. Not over the top, but just enough to give it a real bit of street cred. And it's full of lovely little touches, like the chrome door handles. Really sets it out a little bit, gives the car a good lift. And it's nicely defined shape all the way to the back, where we've got these rather impressive tall tail lights, which are not only very safe, but they also set the back end alight, give it a little bit of a distinctive appearance to it. The whole dimension of it is pretty impressive as well, which is also exactly what you can say about the interior. If this isn't the funkiest interior you've seen for a while, I don't know what is. And what I like about the X Trail is, it's not just a car full of clever gimmicks. Take a look in the back here. Armrest, yeah, but behind the armrest you've got two handy little pockets which are really good just for stowing knickknacks. Pull that forward and you've got the opening to get in anything from skis in the winter, and if you're into more active sports like surfing in the summer, just pull that little catch and you can get 2 or 3 surfboards in here, a couple of mountain bikes. In fact, whatever leisure thing turns you on, this car can cope with it. And you don't get this back in England. At the end of a hard day, there's nothing to beat a wonderful sauna. And of course you'd have to have a sauna in Switzerland, wouldn't you? So, as I keep myself rather healthy, I'll see you after the break when things are going to get really tough, because that's going to be serious off-roading tomorrow morning. Bye! What a way to start the day. I'm about to go down the side of what looks like a small mountain full of mud. This is the off-road course to see whether the X Trail likes it off the trail. Let's have a little see. Yesterday, even though we did some rough dirt track, there was still a question mark on the X Trail's ability on serious off-road, but I'm now entering left and right 2 absolutely huge great holes in the ground, which is testing the springs and the suspension to the maximum, and it really is a very solid little performer. And now we're coming to what looks like vibrating wooden slats, where it seems to slide all over the place, but it's actually amazingly sure-footed. But it really is finding no problem whatsoever with this. And believe me, this is a far greater test than many I've actually driven with rival operators. Now we're going over the biggest set of cobblestones I've ever bounced over. I knew I shouldn't have had that extra drink last night. It's pretty smooth considering what it was. And now we would appear to be climbing up into the top of a mountain, tree-clad at that. Giving it everything up this rather large hill now. The expert from Nissan tells it maximum power. Here we go, maximum power. Yay, charge! Absolutely. So, having successfully come through the 4x4 course, it's time to now look at the diesel. Nissan have very sensibly decided that they must have a diesel in this. They've got a new 2.2 common rail engine, so let's go and see how this one performs. First thing you notice with the diesel is not so much the engine, but the gearbox. It feels noticeably stiffer than the petrol. That may be due to the fact there's only 640 miles on the clock, so it's not exactly well bedded in. It's more solid than inspiring. It's 2.2 litres. It'll do just over 100, just over 13 seconds to get to 62, so you won't be lighting any fires with it. Tommy Mäkinen, eat your heart out. No wonder the Finns have got great drivers. A, there's nothing else to do in Finland, and B, all of these forest roads there are just superb for driving like a bit of a madman, and you get such a buzz out of it. I mean, the X Trail is actually performing remarkably well, considering we're in somewhere that looks like a Finnish version to Kiel de Forest special stage. I've got dust coming up behind me like a dust bowl there. I mean, this is sort of, it's very easy to see how they get carried away. And you've just got endless bends to keep trying and learning your art. Well, I'm pretty impressed. I think that Nissan are definitely on the right trail with the X Trail. It's a very clever balance of macho machine meets city slicker. It's good off-road and it's good on-road. I think they could be sitting on a nice little winner. There's only one thing that's worrying me. They now tell me I've got to get back to the airport via one of the 188,000 Finnish lakes. I'm not happy with this at all. If I don't see you shortly, you know what's happened. I've met a Finnish Loch Ness monster. Goodbye. Looks good. Okay. The Nissan.
Dawn over Germany. Last weekend, the FIA World Championship moved to Nuremberg for the European Grand Prix. As we know, Michael Schumacher took full advantage of his pole position to win the race, but this week's Motor Week focuses on the Mercedes McLaren team. David Coulthard finished third, earning valuable points for his championship challenge. Mika Häkkinen took advantage of McLaren's single pit stop strategy to finish sixth, a disappointing result to Mika, who's had a lot of experience at the Nürburgring ring.
Nürburgring, it has a lot of history behind, and particularly for me, I scored my first pole position here in '97, so I had a lot of good memories from here. It is a great circuit. It's quite an easy circuit to drive. I don't find it very difficult. Maybe that's why I got my first pole position here. It's good, you know. You can really, it's a really high-speed circuit in one sense. You have really corners where you have to tack very hard. You hit very hard on the accelerator. So personally, I do like this a lot. My feeling for the rest of the season is very positive. After all, even though I don't have so many points, and the gap for the championship leader is big. But after all, 9 races, and anything can happen. The 4 races from this moment. If we look 4 races ahead, if I score all of those races 10 points, and the rest of the competitors who are on the front at the moment don't score points or a bit unlucky, so that will give me the completely different picture for the rest of the season. Coming to this Grand Prix and done good test back in Silverstone was very useful, and this weekend we will see what's going to happen. Well, we did a lot of electronic testing also in Silverstone, so it gave us again more ideas and help for the performance of the car. Did a lot of setup work, which made a balance of the car better and enables me to go in the corner quicker. Engine testing was really good. I think Ilmo and Mercedes were happy about it. So all this, you know, when you add together, you know, it was a brilliant test. I had a promotion on Saturday in Ukraine, in Kiev, which was a very, very interesting visit, and it was good to understand about the country, which has got the independence only 10 years ago. So it's a very young country, actual fact, and it was good to do that. It was good to understand the people, how anxious they are to build their country to be a leading European country in the future. So it was good visit. It was certainly great to see how popular Formula One is. It was great to be there.
In future Motor Weeks, we'll look at other aspects of the current Formula One season, including more from the Mercedes-McClaren team, what the drivers do in their spare time, their own philosophies on racing, plus technical details from behind the scenes. Even the painting of the car is a critical operation, as every gram counts. Then the decals have to be applied before the painstaking 24-hour-a-day engineering work has to be completed. Let Motor Week take you behind the scenes of Formula One in future weeks. Plus, in next week's show, Rob Hallam travels to Jerez in Spain to test the astonishing car where the only thing out of place really is the Vauxhall badge. We take the VX220 to the limit on the road and on the track. Plus next week, Ian Royal's also in Vauxhall mode as his used car tippers the Calibra, which models and ages to go for and which to avoid. We'll see you next week for another Motor Week.